All right, Dartist. Have you ever wondered where rope dart technique names come from? I know I sure did. My guest today and I are going to discuss everything there is, or at least we know, about rope dart technique names. And who's my guest, you're asking? It is the legendary merchant tech making, kangaroo breaking, pleaser and teaser of that down and down rope dart style. Dartist, the one, the only, Aaron Stanger.
Thank you very much, Frank. That was quite an intro.
Thank you. I was working on it this afternoon.
I love it.
For sure. Yeah. So I'm actually excited about the new format for Rope Dart School where it's going to be extremely topic based. And today, just to start out this new kind of format, is one of my favorite things to talk about. And I know you as well, Aaron, which of course is the basically the culture behind naming techniques, where things came from, kind of like the unspoken, unwritten rules of naming things. We're going to get into
Yeah.
all of it. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So this was just so everybody knows, this was Aaron's idea. So he should get the credit for that. And why don't you start this journey off right now? Where are we going with rope dart technique names, the culture, all of it?
I mean, where we're going with it, it's pretty exciting. Like, if you look at the traditional nomenclature of how we, well, not us, but how they used to name our rope dart techniques, they all had stories to tell, basically. You've got really legendary moves like Overlord Sheds Armor. It's such an epic name. Every time I tell that to someone, they're just like, that sounds like such a cool move. And then you show it to them and they absolutely love it, and they can see it when you say it. You go, it's got the X on the back, and you can see I'm in the Overlord pose, and then it all just sheds off to the side. And that was always one of my favorites from the beginning because it's got the instructions almost written into it in sort of a story. And that's always interested me when it comes to the names of rope dart moves.
That's awesome. It's even going into things like that. When you look at the technique, Guilo rides donkey. It's technically Guilo rides the donkey backwards, and I believe he was in a Chinese folklore. I want to say it was water margin, but don't nobody quote me on that. But he is a some I want to say deity, and again, I'm not an expert on Chinese folklore and whatnot, but he definitely represented, or you would put a statue of Guilo riding the donkey backwards at in newlyweds bedrooms for fertility and making babies, and you would also put one of these statues or figurines of Guilo riding the donkey backwards um, for in the room where somebody is passing away, and it's supposed to help them. Yeah, it's supposed to help them go to the next spiritual level, if you will. And what I love about Guilo the character and why he's riding the donkey backwards, it's there he had a very nonconformist approach to life, and that is represented by him riding the donkey backwards. But he was brilliant. He was a sage. He was a philosopher. He was a teacher, and he's used for newlyweds and people who are passing.
That's really interesting. That I didn't know.
Yeah, so that's when you talk about the stories behind it, which is not something I ever really connected. Like I understood there were stories behind some of these names, but I never, you kind of made me now think of it in a very intriguing way. So thank you very much.
Oh, you're welcome. I mean, I think about this stuff a lot as well. And your first book that you put out was a massive help for me in being able to like cement in a lot of the names of all the basic stuff. Like when I'm teaching people or doing workshops and you're explaining, okay, you need to do this technique, and they're like, how do you know the names of these things? A lot of the time it's, well, you learn them from listening to people and watching videos and stuff like that, because that's a lot of how information is transferred these days. But I also tell people like, there's a book and it explains all of it and it's very good. I've never read the book start to finish. I pick that book up and I go straight to the index and start looking up what I need. So if I'm thinking about stuff to do with leg wraps, I'm going to go and look up everything to do with legs in your book. I'm going to find anything in there. When you tasked me with doing the workshop on stacking wraps, a lot of the raps you told me, I was straight into your book, looking at those raps in your book, learning the movements through what you've got in there. And everything you do with the explanations really helps cement in my base knowledge of names with moves. And I find that really important because, like a lot of people, I hate being wrong. I don't need to be right, but I need to be correct. And I can't be telling people the wrong information. So it's really important for me to know what I'm talking about when it comes to these things.
For sure. We always want to be as correct as possible when we're talking, but I don't know. I allow for mistakes, especially when it comes to rope dart, because there's a history too behind the naming culture. Maybe we should touch on that because it kind of goes into what you were just talking about. And what
Yeah.
a lot of rope dartists of today need to know is that when all of this kind of culture, whatever you want to call it, this rope dart, boom happened, there was no language behind it. There was no naming that we knew about because earlier in the 80s in China, they did have names for all these not all, some of these techniques, at least techniques that were part of their system. However, when there was that kind of American and worldwide boom with regard to rope dart, that information wasn't available. So we had to come up with names so that we could communicate and speak with each other. We all, I'm saying we all, but at the time there was about five of us, just kind of agreed on a basic premise. And that was, look, if we're going to spread this art, we have to be able to speak about it in a cohesive manner, or else it doesn't. Like that's the first thing is you got to be able to talk about it. You need a
Exactly.
language. How do you pass
Yep.
information without a language? So just for the listener to get a little history behind it, that's really where all the technique names came from. We wrote a little manual, basic things. We adopted a lot of flow terms like wheel plane and wall plane, anything that made sense. You look at a belt wrap, it wraps the waist, kind of a thing.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And I agree with you. Like mistakes are a part of learning and part of becoming more successful. Like you need to make mistakes in order to grow. Um, the mistakes I don't want to make though is thinking something's called one thing and then spreading that word as gospel. And then half the people out there are calling it X and the other half the people are calling it Y. Like for example, we've got prodigal kicks ball. That one is the biggest culprit of that and not to its own fault.
Right. No, not to its own fault. And do you want to explain to the listener who might not know what you're speaking about? Or I could talk about it, but I can talk about anything really.
I'll take a stab and you can clean it up.
Okay, sounds good. I bet you know it better than you know.
Okay, well, so prodigal kicks ball. It's a lead leg empty knot that you end up hooking with your anchor foot and kicking forward. Or so we thought. Everyone seems to do prodigal kicks ball, wrapping the lead leg and kicking with the anchor foot until somebody stumbled across some correct information somewhere or countering information, I guess I should say, that prodigal kicks ball is all done off the lead leg. So you wrap the lead leg and you kick with the lead leg. And indeed, the one that we were calling prodigal kicks ball is actually called Yaksha Searching Sea. That's my knowledge of it.
Yeah, I mean that's pretty much it. And just it's not even to clean it up because that was said perfectly. Just to add a little bit to it, when you look at it's like, okay, so we have these two technique names, right? Where did this come from? It's like it just
Yeah.
that. So when you look at the book Soft Weapons, 9-section whip and rope dart by Li Kequin and Li Xingdang, that's where you find both the prodigal kickball technique and the product and pardon me and the Yaksha Searches C technique. And I think it was just a misreading of those two different but kind of almost similar techniques. In one, you're, as Aaron said correctly, you're wrapping your lead thigh and you're kicking with your anchor foot. In the other one, you're wrapping your lead thigh but shooting with your lead thigh. And I just think it was a an honest mistake across the board, you know? I don't know.
Very easy to mistake to make. Also, Yaksha Searching C, a little bit of a mouthful to say. Prodigal Kicks Ball kind of rolls off the tongue.
Right. And also, if you've ever read Soft Weapons, that is what it's it's one of the most difficult things I've ever seen uh, for reading Rope Dart, and it's actually one of the inspirations of why I try to make the language easy to understand and follow. All you have to do is read Soft Weapons and understand that I did the exact opposite. Like, period.
Yeah.
And
Um,
I just want to make sure that I'm not insulting Soft Weapons. Fantastic book. Everyone should get it. It costs about $1,000 on eBay, but it is fantastic. And
yeah, cheapest I've seen that book is like 300.
oh, okay, well that's good. You know, and just for a piece of, I mean, you get the PDF free online if you want the
Yeah.
information. But if you know if you're a collector like I am and you want the book, you're going to pay for it.
Yeah, of course. Um, I was going to talk about as well with the traditional names, Jade Belt entwines waist. That's another one where a lot of people seem to take the jade belt aspect and apply that to any belt wrap there is. I made that mistake plenty of times and was very quickly corrected by you. The first time I come out and spent time with you in New York. Yeah, like the whole concept of jade belt entwines waist. Can you go through that for me again?
Sure, absolutely. And it's a great example. And again, what every listener has to understand is that all of this language and all of these naming of things is the idea is that we want to make it more understandable, or at least that's my thing. I want to understand it to the best of my ability. So when I look at something like Jade Belt and Twine's Waist, there are so many elements to that technique. You have the what we call a belt wrap, then you have the rope dart. Uh, I guess it's technically twining underneath your anchor thigh outside to inside, and then twining underneath your lead thigh inside to outside, and then you catch it on your lead foot and you shoot it out to the side. That is the
Yeah.
traditional Jade Belt and Twine's Waist. So I like to break that technique down into three different parts: the belt, the under the legs, and the foot shot. Let's go in reverse. You have the foot shot. We call that a continuous hanging foot shot. You're in your
Yeah.
wall plane. The dart is continuing. It doesn't stall at any point. It twines the foot, and the foot follows the circle, the rotation of the rope dart for the shot.
Yeah.
In the middle, you have the jade part. That is what modern rope dart refers to when you pass the rope dart underneath your uh, anchor thigh, again, outside to inside, and then underneath your lead thigh, inside to outside. And then
Yeah.
the first part is the belt wrap, which of course is going around the waist. So,
Yeah.
right. So I guess, you know, the thing that modern rope dart did that traditional rope dart didn't do, respectfully, is break down the individual pieces of the technique. So, in other words, you look at something like Overlord Shed's armor, something we spoke about, and it's like, well, look at all the components. There's a cast out, a retrieval, uh, anchor elbow catch, a lead elbow twine of an elbow shot, step back, shoot. You know, I could say all of that, or I could say Overlord Shed's armor.
Exactly. Yeah. And if you've seen the move and you know the name of the move, then you can easily visualize what's going on. But back to the jade belt for a second. So you're saying the jade component is essentially where it entwines under the legs, kind of through the middle, but essentially behind under both legs.
Yes. So
So then you've got another move, Jade Maiden Shuttle, is it? Or Jade Maiden Shuffle?
Jade Maiden shuttling, like shuttle, TT.
That's what I thought, yes. And that is completely up over the top of the shoulders, isn't it?
It,
Nothing to do with the legs at all.
nothing to do with the legs at all, and it is it's like the first slack lift somebody should learn. Like that's the introduction to slack lifts. Really, is Jade Maiden
Yeah.
shuttle. I
Yeah.
feel. I think that's yeah. Right, because we you're looking at it from a modern rope dartist perspective. You're saying, wait, Jade Belt, Jade Maiden, Jade, why isn't this making sense? And it's because it had they weren't trying to connect the things the way a modern rope dart. They weren't doing that. They were just naming things. There was a reason behind it, perhaps. Like Guilo rides donkey backwards. Sure, it's kind of like a backwards-ish kick when done the traditional proper way. You have that saddle style wrap. You can connect the actual physical movement, and it's as close as looking at a bunch of stars and calling them a constellation.
Yes.
It's
Yes, exactly.
it's as close as that. So, but yeah. So that's another thing it's our listeners should understand is that the modern rope dart approach, dare I say, is a little bit more. I don't want to say not. It's what's a it's really thought out in a way to make it multiply, to not hold the techniques back. Because when you look at something like J Belt and Twine's waist, you can do any one of those three parts, the belt wrap,
Yep.
the J part of the foot shot part, continuous hanging foot shot, without the other two. You can do one of those without the other two. So, which part it is when you say J Belt and Twine's waist, which part is it? Well, traditionally, it's all of those things. In the modern sense, it's broken up because you can do a belt wrap with any kind of exit. You can do jade. You could use jade to go into dark wall and have nothing to do with a foot shot. You could use
Exactly.
you could use a continuous hanging foot shot to do kind of like a scorpion kick to do some lower body leg tech. But that's the way the modern dartist thinks. It's so that it can stay open.
Yeah. So I guess that this would be a good time to segue into naming new moves then, because um, if we want to try and keep things coherent and together, like we want to be able to like keep those names within the same realm as each other. So for example, last year I came up with the move Solar Flare. And for me, the solar flare was a really lazy, saucy, drawn out version of a sunrise where you don't actually let go of the rope dart for the sunrise cast part.
Mhm.
But since it was the same entry, the same exit, and essentially the same movements, just with your arm acting as a training wheel to add an extra loop in behind you, I was like, well, this is all within the sunrise realm. I'm going to try and keep that name similar. And I like the idea of the little loop behind the head kind of looking like a solar flare coming off a sun.
Right. But do you see? But so, okay, it's like, it's reasons like this that it's like, it just makes me so. Do you see how much the solar flare stuck? Like everybody,
Yes.
okay, because think about how much you thought about it. You see what I'm saying? It's like you kept it within the name realm. It was a cool technique. When you say solar flare, when you look at the movement, especially on fire, it feels like that. So that's why with folks, it's like, and when it comes to naming things, you know, when you look at a solar flare, when you go to do it, that's all you can do, and it's a solar flare. Now you might be able to add things to it, but that base movement is the solar flare, similar to like the Von Dreas. It's like,
Yes.
like how do you break apart the Von Dreas? It's like it's kind of this thing, but it's a kind of that. So that's where you get just Von Dreas as that movement. And I don't know, are you familiar with where the Von Dreas comes from? The name?
I was made familiar by you, but I was lucky enough to spend a bit of time in LA last year, and I got to hang out with Andreas. So I've heard the story from multiple angles, but would you like to tell it?
Oh, wait. Well, I want to hear a story. So I'm happy to tell it, but multiple angles. Did you get the story from Andreas?
I got the story from Andreas. I got the story from Taryn. The only person I haven't had the story from yet is Varna.
Okay, so what did Andreas say?
Um,
Or and if you're violating any, I don't want you to say something like no
no, no,
violating.
no.
You know.
He said essentially the same thing that you said, which was this move started getting popular, and you turned around and said, "Oh, that's the Varna move," and he's gone, "Well, no, I've been doing that move for a while. I call it the Andreas," and you said, "Well, let's just cut it in half and call it the Von Dreas."
Yeah. Well, I thought that he came up with it. So my understanding
Okay.
was that Andres Trevino came up with the technique, but Vana Abrahamian made it as like kind of popularized it in a lot of ways. So that is my understanding. And if anybody can correct me on that, see, I guess that's where like I don't mind being wrong. Just to go back to something we spoke about earlier, I
Exactly. Yeah.
don't mind being. I'd rather say I don't know. This is what I think, and have somebody correct me because then I know. Because I just want to know, you know.
Yeah.
Um, but so when you
I
look
think
at
it's a great story about a name anyway. It's like two people had a passion for this move and were like doing it in their way, and it ended up combining to make a really awesome name for a move.
and you know what? This is actually a great segue to a very important thing. It's just maybe it's a pet peeve of mine, but I don't care for when someone names a technique after themselves. It's just like let the community do that for you. And I think in names like Von Dreas, I think of the Bensei kick, I think of the Mayhem elbow spin, and I think of
Yep.
different technique names based on dartists, in the community, but those dartists didn't name it after themselves. We, the community, named it after them. And
That's exactly right.
yeah, so I'm not a fan when someone comes out with something named after themselves, just because a little I don't know. It's kind of like
A lot of the time, those names as well that have someone's name attached to it, like you said, the Mayhem Elbow. Sam didn't name that the Mayhem Elbow. That elbow shot has not a traditional name, but it has vernacular to it. You can explain that elbow shot with terminology.
well,
But it's
it's
called the Mayhem Elbow Shot because everyone sees her doing it in her videos and her performances, and when they talk about it, they're like, "That's the Mayhem Elbow Shot."
so I'm just
That's
gonna
how
clean.
the name spreads.
I'm just going to clean this one up a little bit. It's technically an isolation elbow spin. There is a name, so that comes from Vulcan Tech Gospel. So if anybody's ever heard VTG, I believe Noel Yee. He's a really, really prominent person when it comes to language and understanding and spreading the art. Where I believe he came up with VTG, the Vulcan Tech Gospel, which is named after the Vulcan in Oakland, California, where a lot of flow artists live. That's my understanding of it. And it's how you explain other props, things like poi, fans, things of that nature. So what you're doing when you look at a Mayhem elbow spin does have a modern traditional name, which is an isolation spin, whereas your standard elbow spin is technically an anti-elbow spin. If you wanted to get technical, one is an anti-elbow spin, the other is an isolation elbow spin, and it has to
Yeah.
do with your body moving against anti-elbow spin the spin or moving with isolation spin the spin.
Yep.
That's a mouthful, but it's true, everybody. It's
It
accurate.
is. It is. I mean, and like you said, like all of those words together, it is a bit of a mouthful, which is why people turn around and go, the Mayhem elbow.
Yeah,
And
right,
that's how those names stick. Oh, it's the Bensei kick
right.
because we see Bensei do that all the time.
Right. And a lot of it has to do with, the popularity of it as well, because whereas I don't know who came up with the Bensei kick, it's been done before. It's been done before Instructor Bensei.
Yep.
He certainly made it popular. Like we see a lot of folks doing it, and it's a real easy way to explain. Oh, I did this thing. Oh, was it the Bensei? Oh, yeah, it was the Bensei kick. So when it makes something just real easy to explain, very symbolic, if you will, it's almost like verbal symbolism. That is where a lot of some of those names come into play, and other names just like elbow spin, thigh spin. It's as it's as basic as that, and it should be basic. It should be elementary.
Yep. It was like when I was training the other day, I did something where I brought my dart up behind my back from my anchor side into dark plane, but caught it underneath my lead armpit. And the way it came up underneath my armpit and turned around with me, it's like immediately my brain just went, oh, that's some Rady Flow stuff right there. That felt exactly like watching his videos. And I was like, ooh, that felt fun. Like, I'm gonna have to watch his stuff and explore that a bit more now. But it was just amazing how, like, as soon as something I hadn't done before just fell into place while flowing, my brain instantly went, that felt exactly like watching this person. So I was able to like put a name to just a feeling of a move. And I honestly don't even know how to properly describe it. Like I said, it was, if I was going to describe it, it was an anchor hand, dark plane, in the wall plane rising to the falling. So let me try this one again. Dark wall plane anchor side spin. So it's come down my anchor side, up behind my back, up towards my lead side, and was going to fall down towards my anchor side again, but it got trapped underneath my armpit. So, and that's where it turned into what my brain was saying. That's some Rady Flow stuff right there. For those of you who don't know Rady Flow, that's Adam Bush. Yeah.
Who the hell doesn't know who Rady Flows is? Get out of here. What?
Well, they will now.
No, Adam's great, man. Uh, yeah, and that comes down more stylistically than when it comes to, what's like almost like the steez of somebody, the style of
Yeah.
somebody. So you add that into the mix of things sometimes when naming, or just as you said, it's like kind of like this. It feels like something Adam would do, and it's like I can
Like,
kind of like
yeah.
I could picture it.
It's like the times where you'll say, oh, that's some flow tech or that's some rocket power tech. And it's not like there's an actual catalog of moves that are specific and unique to that person. It's just, well, those moves done in that way is giving that vibe.
Can I just say I'm glad you just said that, because really what it is great rope darters emit an energy. Period. That's what it
Yep.
is. And so when somebody says, "Oh, that this style or that style, whatever it is," we're talking about an energy. Now, it's not only an energy that they build up within them, but it's an energy that they also have the ability to push outward. And
Yep.
who was I talking? It was a rope dart school podcast last year, and I was speaking to somebody about this, and it's like, look, maybe it was Adam actually. I don't remember. It's the ability to take this thing you love, and you could hold on to it. It's fine if you want to hold it on to it for yourself. Like that's your journey with the rope dart. That's awesome. Me personally, I connect with the dartists out there that, because it's me, it's what I did, that they take a love and they push it out. And when
Yeah.
they do that, you say, wow, that guy rope darts like Flo Mayhem. That guy rope darts like Aaron Stanger. What that looks like Bryn Sum. I mean, that's when it all starts to come into this more crystallized picture of what rope dart is. It's like almost from this metaphysical to physical sense.
Yeah, it is. It really does feel like that.
Yeah. Um,
Yep.
so with regard to naming, I actually have another. I'm doing. You set this off. I have another podcast I'm doing tomorrow that's going to be talking about kind of this new, and I'm not going to talk about it right now, but this new style of rope dart that's been coming out. So, and that's what
Oh,
kind of blows my
really?
mind actually is that I've been rope darting now. It was actually just my 21-year dart anniversary. I'm a legal dartist, I guess. I could drink rope dart. Um,
Hey, you can do it drunk now, but I
yeah,
don't advise it.
yeah. Oh, I've done that drunk. Oh, I mean, I'm not going to say that. Never mind. Haha. Just kidding, kids.
Beep.
Just kidding. um, but I don't know where I was going
21
with that.
years.
What's
That's
yeah,
that's 21 years of rope dart.
yeah, it's a lot. It's a lot. Oh, my point is that after 21 years, there's still so much stuff coming out. There's so much stuff. It's like, how do you even keep up with this stuff? And I look at like guys like Will Catt or Will Rogers. This guy, it's nuts. It's nuts.
Yeah.
Talk
Yeah,
about
it's like every time I hit a plateau in my training and I get stuck in the same routine, that's just a message to me that says I need to go and watch more people rope dart because I'm obviously lacking inspiration.
yeah. And honestly, I'm trying to get inspired, but it is snowy outside. Lots of snow, lots of ice. There's almost nowhere to go for me to go outside and rope dart, and I'm not usually one to complain about it, but I'm seeing a lot of great rope dart lately, and I'm just ready to go. Seriously,
Just
I'm
to
ready to
get
go.
out there.
Yeah. Anything else you want to talk about naming culture wise?
Yeah, well, I was actually going to talk about how to start naming things. I mean, like, I've named a few moves myself. I've got a bunch of moves in my catalog that I've got names for up here because that's how I put my flow together. If I start doing a specific thing and it doesn't have a specific name or describing it as a mouthful of terminology, I'll give it a name in my head. Um, Very rarely do I actually say that name out publicly because I don't know whether someone else has named it. I don't know whether I like that name. I don't know how that move's going to evolve. Sometimes the moves evolve past the name that I've got in my head, and I'm like, oh, I'm not really doing that anymore. So I kind of stop calling it those things. But
Well,
what would your advice be for someone that's who's stumbled onto this new thing and they're like, I've got this new move. I'm calling it this in my head. How do I go about getting that out to the
I
public?
love it. I love this question. First off, I would say just do your homework. Did you really come up with something new? That'd be my first thing. Like, is it you're a brand new rope artist? You kind of like stumbled through this technique. It's this odd whatever, and you think you're a genius. Like, is that what happened? Is it a legitimate new thing? Like, really do your homework. Make sure that this technique doesn't already exist. The next thing I would do is make sure that I'm not just taking things that already exist, putting them one after the other and naming it, because that's like, that's just a routine or a form.
Yeah.
That's not a cause to name something unless you want to name the form, but then it has to be, I mean, that's more, you know, International Wushu Federation stuff. And it's like, why would you even bother with things like that if you don't have to? Like, why make it difficult kind of
Yeah.
thing. And just thinking, I would do my homework. I would probably, so if you're not in Rope Dart Tech on Facebook, jump in Rope Dart Tech, ask to join, answer the membership questions. We do not let you in if you don't answer the membership questions. You can answer banana and we'll let you in because we know you're not a robot. If you don't answer them, we don't know you're a robot. We don't let you in. I would go into Rope Dart Tech, and we have a lot of great discussions about it. I think it's actually it's awesome the way we could talk to each other in that group. Go in there and say, hey, I kind of was playing with this. Does it have a name? I see posts like that all the time. It's great. Does
That's
this
how
have
I generally approach it.
Yeah. Does this have a name? Have you seen anything like it? Most of the times, again, it's a bunch of different, it's like they're doing a dragon wrap to a necklace wrap to an elbow shot. They don't know that's what they're doing, but that's what they're doing, right? And they
Yeah.
don't realize that it's just a dragon necklace, shot,
You're
setting
just
elbow
stacking some
shot.
wraps.
Yeah.
So at that point, you're not doing like, okay, so I guess like you've got to be able to define the difference between what is a move, what is a trick, what is a combo, what is a sequence, what is choreo.
Something, okay, so great question. So if you can do something independent of everything else, that deserves its own name. So when you look
Yeah.
at the Vandreas, there's not much of that you can do independent of doing a Vandreas. Like that's one of the
Yeah.
best examples. You kind of have to do all of these things exactly like this to get the full picture of what you're going for. You know?
Yeah.
So that would be, yeah, if it's just one thing, it needs to be independent of other movement. That's my opinion. And the traditional way was taking independent movements, belt wrap, underlegs, and a continuous foot shot, and just calling it some, esoteric, name, J Belden Twine's waist kind of a thing.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, I had a point in my head and it disappeared in the last second, but that's
Oh
okay.
shoot, it's because I talk too much.
No, 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 no. That's just how it goes.
Yeah, it'll come back.
ADHD brains, they forget things like that.
All right. Well, it usually, these things come back if you don't think about it.
Yeah.
We were talking about what somebody should do. And again, I think just go on Rope Door Tech and just, kindly ask a question. I mean, listen, if I know anything about the rope door community, if you come in with like being a nice, good person with a good attitude, everybody's going to treat you exactly like that. Like there's no,
Everyone loved it.
it's like the best people at rope dart on the planet don't have egos. They don't. and it kind of sets this, kind of this standard. Like who is amazing that as and I get we all have egos as human beings, but I mean they're not gatekeepers,
Everyone loves a humble hero, though.
right?
If
But
you
I
you come
think
in
the
humble and you go, "Hey, I found this thing that I've been playing with. Like, it feels really cool. I've been calling it this. Is it real?" Or the other option is just post it and go, "What am I doing here?"
right, yeah, somebody will answer, and usually everybody's polite. I don't see there's no reason to be mean.
Yeah.
So that's what I would do if I was naming something. I would do my homework, make sure that it really is something new. Two, I would make sure that it is, in order to do it, it has to be independent of. So it's like you could do a dragon wrap and then just release it. There's nothing, you know what I mean? It's like it's just a single technique, dragon wrap. You could add different techniques around it, but the base, like when I cast under my lead armpit and have it come out my anchor shoulder, that there's no other element to add to that. That's a dragon wrap.
So let me ask you then about the merchant tech that I was coming up with. So originally I came up with one move that I called Merchant Kicks Rat or Merchant Kicks Ball, and it is two stacked wraps. It is an empty knot around the anchor leg, an empty knot around the leg, and then you can exit with a lead hanging foot shot. Um, that is like we were saying, it's stacking a bunch of stuff together. All of those things you actually can do independent of each other and are done quite commonly in a bunch of other techniques. But in my mind, it was telling a story, and this is one of those things that I was saying, like while I'm rope darting, I'm coming up with names in my head to describe the silly actions I might be making up at the time. Is merchant tech then becoming a set of techniques? Is it its own move, just merchant kicks rat? Because I could compare that to Lion Shakes Mane. Lion Shakes Mane, you've got your dragon wrap into your necklace wrap, and then you're doing a lot of backwards and forwards movements, but you're essentially stacking and holding two wraps and then using the last working end of your dart to work with. And that's what I'm doing with the merchant tech. I'm stacking two wraps as tight as I can, and then using the remaining leading end of the dart to finish my move.
Right. So,
So it
so
so
to me,
yeah, talk about that for a moment.
well, I mean, that's done properly, in my opinion, because you're looking at, so when you look at merchant tech, you have what we're going to call the merchant wrap, which are these two stacked wraps around your thighs, right?
Yep.
That's the merchant wrap. Everything after that, you can do this kind of a kick. You can do this kind of a thing. That's where the word tech comes in because you can add different tech to this merchant wrap.
Right. Now, the merchant wrap, like I said, is just an empty knot around the anchor leg, an empty knot around the lead leg, generally in that order. Um, I definitely am not the first person to do that. So, what gives me the right to go and name it now?
So if it hasn't been named publicly, so that's a great question. What folks have to realize is like we're we're building and making the history as it's happening. And
Yep.
I really wish more rope darters understand the actual responsibility and the duty to the rope dart community that they are in fact stewards of the rope dart on this physical earth plane. But that's just me going off on a thing. And I when you look at what gives you the right to do it, well, if nobody else cared enough and you cared enough, then almost for me, by divine rope dart right, why wouldn't you be the one to name? So what folks have to understand is that, like, when it comes to naming, it's not like Aaron, because he came up with this thing or he named it, he's better than everybody else. He wouldn't say
Not
that
yet.
about himself. Nobody, like, so it's like it doesn't have to be this thing. It's like I didn't come up with the name of every. I hardly came up with any rope dart technique names. I came up with some, but you know, it if nobody else did it, you are trying to, and that's why I say do your homework. You stumble across this wrap, double thigh wrap. Fine, come across this wrap and you're like, what is this? And you look here and you can't find anything. And you look there and nobody hasn't done it. And you look over there, and you don't see this anywhere. You're like, okay, well, It reminds me, I like the idea of storytelling in my rope dart. It brings it
Yep.
again to this physical plane, this metaphysical to physical. So the story I see with this is this merchant holding up his like pockets, like with this change coming out of it, kicking a
Yep.
rat. Yeah, right. So it's like, but you see how clear that picture is in my head of what you're talking about? That's what gives
Yep.
you the right. That's what gives you, you know what I
Okay.
mean? Because you thought about it, because you did your homework, because you put it out there. Guys, there's no doctrine or decree that says that you cannot come up with a rope dart technique name. The only thing that asks is that you're accurate with it and to try to stay within, nomenclature that's known, and that's more for you. So your idea could be more easily understood by me, by Aaron,
Yep.
by Wilcat, by Chino, by everybody. You know what I mean? It's
Yeah,
like
and it's much more easily adopted at that stage as well.
it's easier to adopt. That's how,
Yeah,
because now you can talk about what. That doesn't work. All right, you can't talk like a
it doesn't.
Neanderthal. Like you got to have a language.
Yeah. So, okay, if we're keeping things in the same area when we're naming them, like we're trying to like solar flare comes from sunrise and everything like that, at what point do you abandon that pattern in favor of just giving something a new name altogether? And let me give you an example.
I
I've
got one
been
for.
doing a lot of, sorry, yeah.
I have an example for you, and I wonder if it'd be the same example. But go ahead. I'll tell you.
I was going to say, I've been doing a lot of work with the Dragonfly Cradle lately. And I get into the Dragonfly Cradle, and I have found, I think, a good dozen or so different little body movements, combos, tricks, or whatever. I have only named these as far as one, two, three, four, five in the order that I've discovered them. How do I go about naming these without having dragonfly attached to everything? Because it becomes a mouthful. It becomes hard to say all the time. So,
I mean, I would personally, I would have to see it off the top of my head. I feel like I would keep the word dragonfly in it. If it's a family of techniques that have this dragonfly wrap in it, I would have to see. Honestly, I'd have to see it because I'm speaking of something that I can't visually, I know what a
then
dragonfly
what was the
looks like.
example you were going to give?
Say it again, brother.
What was the example that you were going to give?
I was going to give your crowd pleaser and crowd teaser
Okay.
because, yeah, I was going to do that because for anybody that's unaware, and you should check out not only Aaron's page or Rope Dart Academy, also has both of Aaron on Instagram, have both of Aaron's tutorials for the crowd pleaser and the crowd teaser. And when you look at that, it's like, well, where did those names came from? And, you know, Aaron did it, he showed it to me, and I was just like, it's a crowd pleaser. I don't like that, that's where the name came from. It was that simple. And
Yep.
then Aaron came out with a variation of that. And do you see how he started crowd pleaser and then he went with crowd teaser? He rhymed the two words. Do you see how like well thought out that is? It keeps things in the same I am a nerd for this stuff when
I
it
feel
comes to
like
the
that
rope
one wrote
dart.
itself almost.
What's that?
I said, I feel like that one almost wrote itself for me.
What, crowd pleaser?
Crowd pleaser into crowd teaser. Like you helped
Yeah.
me with crowd pleaser. I remember that was after Dart Arts in 2024. Shout out to Dart Arts. But yeah, we left there and you were saying, what was that big windmill move you did during the showcase? And I said, I'm not sure, but it seems to be a bit of a crowd pleaser. And you said it definitely is a crowd pleaser. I'm like, well, I guess that's what I'm calling it.
Yeah, because
Um,
you can't break that down. I'm not saying that these techniques don't have their individual components. That's not what I'm saying. But that's a movement nobody's ever done. Both the crowd pleaser and the crowd teaser. And I'll say I'm going to go as far as saying they've never done it. But if I want to protect myself, they've never done it and presented it out and pushed it out to the world. Certainly not.
yeah.
Okay. So if anybody out there is going to cry about it, that's the hammer. It's like, well, you didn't put it out there, so, and I don't even believe you did it before Aaron anyway, so it doesn't matter. But sorry, I don't want to be mean, but
That's
um,
all right. Look, if someone else has already done it before me, we'll just change the name to the Crowd Stealer because I stole it from them.
well played. Again, there's the right to naming, um, which everybody has, by the way. Again, it's a matter of make it make sense, and ask the community. Everybody will help. Do your homework. Make sure it doesn't already exist. Um, there's all these things. We just check with each other. Just check. Everybody's
Yeah.
so nice. Just check.
Now we've mentioned two books on this so far. I spoke about your first book, the traditional and modern rope dart. And you spoke about what was the book you mentioned?
Yes, soft weapons, 9-section whip, and rope dart.
Yeah. Are there any other books you'd recommend at the moment that would help people specifically within this realm of like just getting a base knowledge that they can use to work off with building their names?
Um,
Like I
I
highly
would recommend.
recommend your
I would
traditional.
I would recommend two books. As a matter of fact, the first book I would recommend is, in my opinion, one of the more groundbreaking of the older rope dart books, and that was called Rope Dart, the Kung Fu Weapon, and that's by Eric Shu Li Yao. Now, when
Yep.
you look at Eric, I had a pleasure of speaking to Eric. I actually interviewed him specifically for my book Traditional Modern Rope Dart. And when he wrote that book, he had told me that the technique names that he came up with were self-established. In other words, he came up with them because he was unfamiliar at the time, like the rest of us, that there were technique names, but they were kind of like locked up in the Physical Culture Institute of Beijing, China. All right.
Yeah.
But you could see where, in some ways, and this might sound like a bit of a critique, but the reason I was able to write my book is because Eric was able to write his book, because I drew a lot of inspiration from him. But I did some things differently where when you look at Eric's book, the technique names are sometimes independent of each other times not so much. And the technique name will change in different ways, or it's kind of hard to explain. You have to really study that book and be like, oh, well, you're just kind of doing this thing here, but instead of stepping left, you stepped right. It's almost like the same technique, but with completely different names, you know? So whereas when I look at something like that, and again, it's like there's an evolution of it. I'm hoping that in the future, someone will take what we're doing now with the language or what I did with traditional modern rope dart and make it better, make it more accessible somehow. Guys, we're all just building on each other. And I'm certainly, resting under the shade that Eric Shu Liao's book, Tree Grew, you know, he opened the door for something like that. I tell you, I had when I wrote traditional modern rope dart, I had 3 books by me as inspiration the entire time. I had Eric Shu Liao's book, I had Tai Jeet Kune Do by Bruce Lee, and I had
Yep.
the Art of French Cooking by what's her name? Art of French Cooking. Why can't I think of her name? She's like the most famous female French chef, but that was American. That name will come back to me. Um, anyway, so I would
Shout out
recommend.
to,
What's that?
I said shout out to
Yeah,
her.
shout out to her. Wow, I can't even believe I. Oh,
Put
Julia
it, put
Roberts.
it.
No, not Julia Roberts. Julia Childs. Julia. No, wait.
Okay, yeah.
Is it Julia Childs? Right? Is that her name?
Yeah.
Okay, all right. So I had it was a very inspirational book, and I can actually talk. I can actually talk about that, but I want to stay on topic. The other book I would recommend when it comes to names, and it's not like I'm just recommending this. There's no how-to book on how to name things. All right.
No, no, but getting a foundation of names that are out there, like the not the just traditional names like Overlord Shed's Armor, but like the technical names, like you said, like an isolation elbow spin,
Right. Well,
things
that's
like that.
well, okay. Well, that's in traditional modern rope dart. Some of those names. The other name, when I said 2 books, the first one would be Rope Dart, the Kung Fu Weapon by Eric Shu Liao. When it comes to just naming and understanding names, and the other book, and I hate, I whatever, you know me. I hate plugging myself, whatever it is, but Wushu Rope
No,
Dart. Wushu Rope Dart. I mean, these are all traditional. So the names that Aaron and I are talking about, like these names that were locked up in the Beijing Physical Culture Institute back in the late 70s, early 80s in Beijing, China, the book Wushu Rope Dart is about some of those techniques and their original names. So in that sense, it's, um, you know, it's very legitimate, and it's very much based on traditional names. And that's where, Aaron and I spoke in the beginning of the podcast. That's where, the way that the traditional wushu named techniques, didn't really have anything to do with anything. You have a jade maiden shuttling. You also have a jade belt and twine's waist. And you can
Yep.
see that you'll see that in wushu rope dart. It's just, this like some technique names will like gold silk twine's arm. This is obviously a collection of elbow shots. Gold silk, the rope, twine's
Yeah.
arm, your elbow.
And yeah, it's
So or
twining, so it's going around multiple times.
right. So there's like even that storytelling that you spoke of earlier. So those are two books. And then when you look at names like anti-spin, isolation spin, those base modern technique names, I'm not going to say it's all in traditional and modern rope dart, but there's a lot in there.
Yeah. I guess the last thing on my mind then is what is your most favorite traditional move name? Not the doing the move itself, but what do you think is like your most favorite, the coolest name out there? For me personally, it is really a toss up between Lion Shakes Mane and Phoenix Nods Head 3 times. They sound so epic. They make you think of the like a giant lion but in like human form with armor doing stuff, and like the phoenix in a big set of armor and everything. I start to like see like, I don't know, traditional stuff but mixed with kids cartoons in my head.
I think we call that anime, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
uh, I agree with you. And it's funny because when you asked me that question, the first thing that popped into my head was Phoenix Nods Head 3 times. And
Yep.
I'm going to give a little spoiler now to everybody that's going to Dart Arts 2026 this year. The class I'm going to be teaching is the Lion and the Phoenix, where I'm going to be teaching
Oh
both.
yeah.
Yeah, I'm going to be teaching both my version of Lion Shakes Mane and the traditional version of Phoenix Nods Head 3 times with the Phoenix Nods variations, which takes that technique up to 11. It is
Oh
so hot with
man.
the variations. So
Damn,
that's
that
what
is going to be a hot class this year.
yeah. So, I actually, it's funny you asked this question about favorite technique name because I have multiple favorite technique names, and
Oh, the pit.
There's a reason why I love this technique name. As an example, I love Prodigal Kicks Ball because we all got it wrong. That's it. Just,
Yep.
we all got it wrong. I love, let's see. I love
In
the
your
name.
head,
What's up?
sorry, I was going to say, in your head, is the prodigal just a young child?
I've tried to look up the word prodigal just to find out what the heck they're talking about. And all I got is just kind of like a spoiled rich kid. That's kind of what I get. Like that's
Yeah, I mean, my understanding of the word prodigal isn't necessarily like more to do with like value or richness of the person or anything like that. Like you hear of someone being called a prodigal soccer player and stuff like that, like they were born to be it or whatever. So when I hear prodigal kicks ball, I my visualization of that is a young kid kicking around a ball and people are just seeing them like, yeah, that kid's going to be a soccer player or something like that, even
very
though it came from a time where soccer never existed.
good. And just to even touch on the prodigal kicks ball, what a lot of darters have to know is there are actually two techniques out there. One is prodigal kicks ball, and the other one is prodigal plays ball. Now, these are two distinctly different techniques that do get sometimes confused. When you look at prodigal plays ball, it's a foot shot. It's just your standard, downward spin, wrap the foot, shoot the dart. That is your prodigal plays ball. Your prodigal kicks ball is the one we spoke about earlier that's been mistaken for Yaksha Searches C. And I
Yeah.
know that's a mouthful, but it's accurate and true.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I would say names like I love the name Overlord Sheds Armor because I think that
Classic.
that has the most names the most differing names of any rope dart name I've ever come across. It has the most.
Yeah, yeah. It's got like four different names, doesn't it?
I think it's actually closer to seven, but
Okay.
yeah. A technique I like is Erlang carries mountain on shoulder, which is technically an overlord. And I think I wrote it wrong in traditional modern rope dart. So that for anybody that's still listening, there is a mistake in traditional modern rope dart. There's actually two mistakes, um, but one of them has to. I think I miswrote Erlang carries. I think I wrote Erlang throws rock over mountain or something like
You
that.
did. That's what it's called in the
Yeah,
book.
yeah. I think I did that because I had Eric Yau's book and I was kind of going back and forth with things. And I kind of blended it was an accident, but I think my brain just accidentally blended the traditional name Erlang carries mountain on shoulder. And if you look in Eric Yau's book, I think it's something throws rock over or something. And I think that's his version of the Overlord. And my
Ah,
brain
okay.
yeah, my brain just did this with the technique name. So that's real though, everybody. That's true. And the other one is this misspelling of guilo. I had seen it spelled one way. It's really spelled another way, and that's
Yeah,
it. We make mistakes. It's life.
we mean, awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I mean that's I've pretty much got my fill on talking about naming stuff at the moment.
Yeah. I hope everybody listening understands a little bit better where naming came from. Oh, before we leave, what everybody also has to understand is that a lot of us were skaters. We skateboarded. And the idea to name techniques was heavily influenced by the fact that skaters named the different skateboarding techniques because that's what makes sense. That's how you spread an art like skateboarding. So,
Yeah.
that it's like just that, not that we took skateboarding words, it's just that philosophy of call this a kickflip, call this a 360 flip, call this, you know what I mean? It's
We did take one of their words.
dark.
Yes.
We did. We did. We took.
So unique to them and them alone.
Do you want to explain before we leave to the audience what that means? What we just said. If you know the story, and if you don't, I don't mind telling it.
Okay, I don't mind being wrong, but yeah, so when you bring the
Wait, can I just
dart,
say? Let me say something. At the beginning of this
yeah,
podcast we started, you didn't want to ever be wrong, and now you're okay with it. Progress. Good. Continue.
progress. Yeah. So dark plane is wall plane but working behind you. Specifically from the anchor side first. So if you're bringing your rope dart behind you from your anchor side, you're in dark plane. If you bring it in front of you and then behind you, you're just starting to do a belt wrap or some other kind of wrap. So, and the term, Frank coined the term dark because when skateboarders do dark slides, they flip the board upside down and they slide on the board's grip tape on the rails and stuff like that, and they call that a dark slide. So Frank's gone, well, if it's upside down, it's backwards, it's the wrong way around, it's dark. So
Yeah,
that's my knowledge.
that is accurate. Notice how I didn't call it Frank's plane. It's Frank's
And
plane.
then you bring the rope up into Frank's void.
Right? Could you imagine? Wow. Oh, like, wow. I'm sorry. It's just so funny. Um, and yeah.
Oh, but
Oh,
like we could go on forever, but last thing
right.
I'll
I
touch
was going to
on
say I
is
had one more thing too, but go ahead.
negative space. That's a new term.
Okay. So, okay. Secret. Secret. Now everybody's going to know. My next podcast interview is about negative space. I'm talking to Will Rogers.
Hey,
Dude, I'm talking to Will Rogers, and I'm so
that's
fucking excited.
that's a oh dude, Will Rogers is absolutely
He's an
slaying with all the
he's,
negative pockets at the moment.
dude, he's an
I guess that's a special
animal.
secret for all the 10 percenters that make it to the very end of the podcast.
Dude, he's an animal. He's an
Oh,
animal. Like I
man.
can't wait to talk to this guy. He's a fucking animal, man.
That
Oh,
last video he did where he was doing negative space under his lead arm and then around his neck several times. And dude, I was lost straight away. And that
right.
is amazing. I'm
Definitely.
having so much fun watching his progress. I can't wait to see you guys talk together.
Oh, I am. over the moon excited to do this. So
We won't talk anymore about that. We'll leave that one for you guys.
yeah, for sure, for
I'm happy
sure.
to wrap this up now if you are, man.
Yeah, I thought this was great. I think we covered almost everything. But you're whoa, Crystal, my cat, knocking over the microphone. Um, anyway, yeah, this was great. I hope Rope Dartist found a lot of answered questions in this. I think we covered, and we could talk about it forever, but I think we covered a lot of bases here.
Man, if people have got questions, they should drop them in the comments and maybe we'll do a part two where we get back together and actually answer the questions.
Yeah, that's true. And you know what's great is that this is technically somewhat of a part two because you are the first second time guest I've had now. So
Nice.
yeah, so I'm excited. We got some really great shows lined up. I kind of already
Thank you very
spilled the
much.
bean. What's that?
I said I feel honored. Thank you very much.
Well, I mean, I'm excited about this new format of staying topic based. I think that it's a great way to educate rope dartists on rope dart, you know?
Yep.
So sticking to topics, I think is going to be how I move forward with all this. So
Excellent move.
yeah,
Alrighty. Well, thank you for having a chat with me, man. I've had a wealth of knowledge flooded back into me. Um, I
yeah,
really appreciate every chance I get to talk with you.
yeah, absolutely, man. Thank you for talking with me and just being such an awesome guiding light in the rope dart community, being a pillar. Uh,
Thank
you know, again, it's that responsibility of I love when rope dartists take the responsibility of the rope dart and they check with naming things and they do it in a certain way and they're intelligent about it and they all of those things matter. And one of the last things I'll say is like if folks out there that for whatever reason get upset that a language already exists, I don't know, it's like we did the hard work. I don't know what you're upset about,
you.
but look, if you want to come up with your own language, that's fine. Just know that you're going to be like in a corner talking to yourself because nobody, we all use a certain language here, and you can too. Just join us. It's awesome. It's easy.
That's it.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Cool.
Thank you very much, man.
All right, definitely. Thank you. To everybody else, again, this is an absolute pleasure. Wishing you the best. Peace, love, dot life.
Start life.